Welcome to today's webinar on connecting every click to revenue with link-based conversion tracking. I'm Stephanie Yoder, Director of Content at Rebrandly, and I'll be moderating today. So thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to show you what's possible with link-based conversion tracking. And with over 200 people signing up, I think it's fair to say that you're eager to learn about it. So first, a few quick housekeeping items. Everyone is muted, so feel free to get comfortable. You can chat with each other in the chat if you'd like. We are recording this session, and we'll send the recording along with some follow-up resources to everyone who registered. We have about 30 minutes for the presentation and 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A at the end. So as you have questions, feel free to pop them in the Q&A box, and we'll address as many as we can at the end. So now let me introduce our speakers. We have Allison Charles, Direct VP of Marketing at Rebrandly, and Carlissa Ablay, our Senior Product Manager. Together, they've been instrumental in bringing Rebrandly's conversion tracking to life. So first, we're going to have Allison walk you through the business case for link-based tracking, and then Carlissa is going to show us the feature itself and how it works. So with that, Allison, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Stephanie's going to drive for me. Next slide, please. Okay, so every day our customers share thousands of links across social, email, paid ads, influencers, QR codes, so much more. And they watch the clicks roll in. But then the signal goes dark. Did anyone who clicked actually buy, sign up, or convert? Clicks tell an important story, but they don't prove ROI to stakeholders. And trying to piece attribution together yourself is manual and error prone, often involving pulling data from multiple systems and compiling it in spreadsheets or guessing based on correlation. And many tracking methods require dev tickets and put tracking marketing outcomes at the back of the engineering queue. That leaves marketers asking themselves questions like this. Next slide, please. They can't assess the value of their activities because they can't see how the click connects to the business outcomes. That's why today we are so proud to introduce Rebrandly conversion tracking. Next slide, please. Conversion tracking connects every click to the business outcome that you care about so you know exactly which links drove results. Here's why tracking at the link level is so amazing. Next slide, please. Unlike other tracking methods that are locked in different reporting systems, like your ad platform or your CRM, your social channels, or your email, link tracking works anywhere. It's extremely flexible. Anywhere you share a Rebrandly link, you can track. Setup is also extremely easy. It can be done in 15 minutes. If you're an ops-savvy marketer or using AI, you can do it without any dev support. And once it's done, you don't have to do additional work to set up every new channel or system with its own reporting. Just keep creating links the way you already do in Rebrandly, and everywhere you place them, that tracking will flow into your Rebrandly reporting. Finally, conversion tracking lets you pick the outcomes that matter to you. You define what matters to your business as a conversion, whether that's revenue dollars, signups, form fills, or downloads. You define the event and can connect it back to the links along the full journey. Next slide. Every link tells the story of where your customers come from. They're the essential doorways that your customers come through to get from wherever they started to your content, your product, your information. And Rebrandly conversion tracking gives you the full path from the click to the business outcome that matters. Now I'm going to hand it off to Carlissa to give us a full demo and walkthrough.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Allison. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Bear with me one moment, everyone, as I find the share button. And here we go. So I just want to reiterate the gap that Allison mentioned here in that as marketers are sharing these links, we're not just looking at the number of clicks that appear, but we want to see what matters, like what actually happens in terms of conversions. So basically, let me show you how conversion tracking closes that gap. Setup is fairly simple, no more than 15 minutes, to be honest, if you have access to all of your tools that you need to set this up. So in Rebrandly, you will actually see a new tab in settings called conversion tracking. This is where the good stuff happens in terms of setup. Again, setting up is fairly straightforward. You're going to add add a new conversion tracking key. And we will have a WYSIWYG that, well, not WYSIWYG, a wizard, there we go, a wizard that shows you how to go through all of the steps for setting up conversion tracking. So the first thing that you need to do is really set up a conversion tracking API key. This is a different API key from all of the other API keys in your system, so it has a special section in Rebrandly just for this purpose. You'll go ahead and click on the Create API Key button, and we'll generate that for you. And then once that API key is generated, you can go ahead and copy this little snippet to add to the header of your website. So if you've used Google Analytics before, this is very, very simple to that setup in that you copy this little snippet of code and paste it into your website header, basically anywhere where you want to track conversions. This also works with WordPress, Squarespace, Webflow, any CMS system that you have. And that is really how we start to track page views, because all you have to do again is add this snippet to the header of your website. And that is it for basic setup. Once you have the snippet and the header, we are going to track any page view that comes through via a link click from Rebrandly. But let's say you want to track more. You specifically want to track conversions with additional attributes tied to them, whether that be revenue or just additional information, maybe email, source, etc., etc. You can add a single line based on the action that you want to track. So this is for events like signups, purchases, downloads. It's basically one line of code you add wherever the action actually happens. And you can also pass in revenue as well. So this is how we do revenue attribution to a link. And so those are the three main steps that you take to set up conversion tracking. And you have the option to test if a website has conversion tracking installed. I'm going to go ahead and just take a dummy website I have here. Bear with me one moment as I copy this URL and then verify that connection. It will basically open up a website just to do the verification to see if that snippet is installed. And it will basically give you a signal once it's done loading that this website does have conversion tracking installed into it. Bear with me one moment as this loads. The demo gods are not as friendly with me at this moment compared to when I was doing this literally an hour ago. So it will basically tell you that this website does have the tracking script attached to it. And so once the tracking script is installed, all you have to do is enable which workspaces have conversion tracking attached to them. So this does work retroactively in that when you go to workspaces and you enable conversion tracking in a workspace, conversion tracking will be attached to all of the links in that workspace, regardless of when you created it. So conversion tracking is enabled for both of these workspaces. That means any link I've created in that workspace will have a tracking ID attached to that link. And so let me show you how this works. I have 4 different links here I've created based on different channels of how I'm getting people to drop into my metric flow demo website. So all I have to do to specifically in this example show you how we track this click and attribute it to all of the actions that follow is I will open this link up and you can see that, hopefully you can see in the URL that I have a Rebrandly click ID. So again, any subsequent action that happens in this journey of mine will get tracked to that specific click. And I see we have questions coming through. I'm going to save these questions for later just because we do have a Q&A and I will answer them live. Promise. So keep your questions coming in and as we go through this demo. So now that I have clicked that link and conversion tracking is enabled on this website, I am going to show you how this works. Again, I have gone ahead and installed that snippet of code in my header. Now this is attached to all of the pages because I want actions tracked on all pages. So from there, again, you don't have to do anything else. A page view is going to be tracked automatically because that snippet is installed in the header. But because I, as a marketer, want to track all of the different key actions that customers take, I'm going to start to attach some conversion events. For example, I want to know when somebody clicks on this start free trial CTA. So I'm going to call this little event, again, one line of code here that says, this is the event of my choice. I'm just going to name it CTA click, and these are the different attributes that I would like to pass. All of this is customizable. You can pass any parameter that you want for tracking purposes. You can name this custom event based on however you would like to name it. So there is a lot of freedom that you have in setting up this experience. So let's say I go through and click on that start free trial button. Well, that button will then take me to the pricing page. To me, as a marketer, again, for anyone who views the pricing page, that's a good signal for me that this customer is interested. So I want to know when this pricing page has been viewed. So I'm going to track another event here, and I will also track another event when somebody clicks on that start free trial button. The start free trial button will then take me to a little form that a customer can fill out. So they'll fill out all of this information. Again, you can add in any information or pass in any information you want to this event. If you want to avoid PII, don't pass this PII. It's really that simple. This is super customizable. It just passes the information that you really need. And then I also want to track revenue. You can see that on my professional plan for this SaaS website, it has a $79 per month value. So when somebody goes ahead and goes through the sign up form or the start free trial form and then selects that professional plan, I am also going to pass the revenue when that event is confirmed. So it's a purchase event. For my organization, I'm going to pass the revenue. It's in USD, and I'm going to pass these additional parameters tied to it. And so what you can see here is that this is like the full journey that a customer has taken from clicking a link and through all of the different conversion events and page views they've had until that final goal where revenue was generated from my click. So that is basically how this funnel is set up for this website. Now, this is very attributable to any other industry as well. It's not just going to be SaaS, websites that are able to apply conversion tracking. I have examples for the healthcare industry. So in this demo, it's a healthcare system that tracks patient registrations. So I can track which marketing channels drive the most new patients, broken down by insurance provider. Or let's say you're in finance. So for this demo, it's a digital bank that tracks account applications, and I am going to look at which campaigns drive the highest value customers segmented by product type. So whether it's SaaS signups, patient registrations, bank account applications, e-commerce purchases, whatever you need, if there is a link click and an outcome, conversion tracking connects them. But I will go into deeper in these demos in the office hours. We do have office hours next week if you need help setting up conversion tracking, and we'll take a look at how the different types of events tied to these industries. But now that we saw a full flow back in this SaaS website, I'm going to show you what the analytics look like. So this is the most important part. You're going to be able to see this data at scale. When you have conversion tracking, you're going to have a new report in the analytics section called conversion tracking. And you are going to see the top metrics here, which is going to be total click. So how many people clicked on your links specifically for the time frame that you've selected. We'll show you the number of conversions, the conversion rate, as well as total revenue, so the actual dollar value that your links generated. You'll also see here a chart that visualizes those clicks and conversions comparison. So you will be able to see clicks in blue and conversions in green, and you can do a comparison over time of how many people are clicking versus converting on a day-to-day basis. So super helpful chart for you to have. You'll also have the conversion funnel, just another visual way to show you how clicks are, going down into conversions, where people are bouncing, where people are dropping. We also show you how long it takes for someone to convert. So based on that first click, how long does it take them to actually complete a conversion event? And because you can set up any customizable event that you would like, you get to have an event breakdown, meaning that for any custom or conversion tracking event that you've generated, we can show you the number of events, the average value of revenue it generates, as well as the total revenue it's generated over time. And then we'll also show you your top converting links. You can compare which links convert best. Is it email outperforming social? Which campaign drives the highest revenue per click? And last but not least, we have a path analysis just in case you're curious. What are the different steps people are taking from a click to a specific event to another event? So here you can see that I've selected a start event of landing on the index page, and those who end up going to the thank you page, which is the, final conversion event that I want to see. And these are all of the different paths that people take, as well as the average duration and the number of sessions that people take as well, and the average value that they're generating based on that path. That way, you can optimize your paths if needed. If you're seeing a lot of sessions that really don't have value attached to it, maybe you need to clean up some of that flow in your website. And so these are the charts that we show you in the new conversion tracking report. And again, this is the data that marketers have been asking for. It's not just how many people clicked, but how much revenue did that campaign actually generate? And so I want to do a quick recap here. It is really one snippet that you have to add to the website, to the header of your website. 15-minute setup tops, really, really quick to do. It's the same way as you've done with Google Analytics, which I know many of you have used. And automatic page views are tracked. There's no additional code that you have to add. Custom events do require a little bit of code in that it's one line per conversion action. And we also do full revenue attribution from link click to revenue, all in your Rebrandly dashboard. So conversion tracking again is available on the professional plan and up. So if you'd like to get started, if you're on those plans, play around with it or go ahead and upgrade. And that is it for my part of the demo. I will pass it back to Stephanie and I'll stop sharing my screen.
Great. Thank you, Carlissa. I love looking at those charts. They're so beautiful. So now we have time for some Q&A. And I have a few questions in the box. Feel free to add more if people have questions that come up. So I have two questions that I think are really the same question. So I'm going to read one of them first. It says, can conversions still be tracked if a third-party site is used as part of the lead journey? So the example is, we host a lot of events, but often have our guests register through a platform such as Eventbrite. Obviously, we can't add a tracking script to a site we do not own, but if we redirect them back to a thank you page on our verified domain, will Rebrandly still count that as conversion, or does the tracking data get lost once they are redirected off-site? Oh, you're muted, Carly.
Yeah, I just noted. I just saw. That is a great question. So I'm going to click the answer live button so everybody can see it in the Q&A window here in Zoom. So I kind of want to get additional clarity on this. So for your Rebrandly link, I'm curious if you are redirecting them to, or if you are sending them over to Eventbrite, or if you're sending them over into your website, because that will give me a better understanding of what actually happens as part of this flow. So I'm just going to go through it in steps, but for the person who asked the question, feel free to drop in chat to add additional verification. So if you are tracking, or if you are taking a Rebrandly link and sending them over into Eventbrite, you're right. We can't track Eventbrite. We can't have a tracking snippet there. But let's say, for example, you have a Rebrandly link that sends you to your website, and then there's somewhere in there that sends them over to Eventbrite and back into your main website for that conversion event. We can track that. What happens is we do have local storage enabled in the click event. That's why we can track any subsequent action that happens, whether that happens today, a week from now, or a month from now. We can say, okay, this event is tied to that last link click that customer clicked. And so in that event, so long as you are taking them back to your website, we can track that conversion. Um, so so hopefully that answers your question. Again, if you're not sending them back to your website, we can't track that conversion because you're correct. Like there are some websites that don't allow you to add tracking headers in their scripts, like or tracking scripts in their headers, like Eventbrite, but so long as it's your website, we should be able to do that.
Okay, I think we have an update in the chat. It says
Yeah.
we often use Rebrandly links to send them from the events calendar on our website or social page to the actual registration page on Eventbrite.
Okay, great question or great clarification. Thank you, Chris. So in this event, in this scenario, if you're not passing them back to Rebrandly, we can't track that conversion.
I
However,
think
with
I
that
think they are.
said,
I think they are, Carlos. I think they're going
okay,
from calendar to Eventbrite and then back to their own thank you page. So they are
okay.
landing on a conversion event on their website. So I think the
Okay,
answer
then
is yes.
yes.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you are having them land on a thank you page back to your website from Eventbrite, yes, we can track that conversion. With that said, one of the things that I do want to add is that this isn't, the final iteration of conversion tracking. We have a lot of plans for conversion tracking in like the rest of this year as well as the future. We're going to be building out integration, so it's just a one button click for you to set up this tracking snippet and all of the events that you want. And so in the future, we can have integrations with other types of like providers like Eventbrite, Shopify, etc. Please send us notes. Please send our team which integrations you'd like to see that way we can prioritize them. But just want to call out, yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Chris. Yes, you will be able to track that conversion if you're redirecting them back to your thank you page. But in the future, we will hopefully have integrations with Eventbrite and other third-party apps.
Great. So our second question, I think may be the same question, so you tell me if we fully covered this. But it says, will UTM data be passed through the entire lead journey if they are redirected to multiple different sites? The example here is a hotel. So they go to the main website to book a stay, but check out and confirm through the booking engine.
Okay. So yeah. So that will have the same answer as Chris's question in that so long as you're passing them back to your original website where you originally redirected them to, so we can track that conversion event. And if it's like a thank you page or a confirmation page, then we can track that conversion. So that's the key learning here is they do need to be on your website for that conversion event to happen and for us to track it. If it's a thank you page or a confirmation page, that's the easiest way to track a conversion if you're redirecting them to different platforms. Again, I will call this out. I will put this out there. If you want a specific integration, let us know. That way we can prioritize it. We want this tool to be as easy for you to use as possible. And so your feedback helps.
Totally. 100%. Please reach out to us. And to add more good news, Carlissa, it specifically said our booking engine. So I think
Oh,
it
okay.
is a place they could put their. So yes, the answer is
Yes.
yes. Uh, I'm not sure if the question was about UTM parameters specifically or about conversion tracking. This conversion tracking methodology does not rely on UTM parameters. So you're not setting up conversion tracking and then adding UTMs to your links. That's one of the benefits is you actually don't have to worry about that. You can add your UTM parameters as you always do on your Rebrandly links if you prefer, but you don't have to. So if the question is, Will it get dropped if you go to different websites owned by you and not before the conversion? The answer is no. If someone clicks through Instagram and goes to your site, I'm sorry, the question disappeared, so I lost your specific use case. So we can mark it answered. If someone goes from Instagram to your website and then they're like, I'm bored. I'm gonna go shop on Amazon a little bit. And then they come back and then they click through to another one of your URLs, which is a booking engine. As long as conversion tracking is set up there as well, you will be able to track that whole journey. Not, you won't know that they went to Amazon. That's not your business, but they don't have to just stay on your site continuously to track the conversion event.
That's great. And I think that addresses a question that I see in the comments, which is how exactly is this different from UTM tracking tied to events in GA4?
Yes.
Yeah,
So that's a good call out. So, um, as Allison has noted, 100%. If you own the website and it's your own engine, you have the ability to add the script anywhere. So you can even in your own engine add that snippet to those pages and pass those events and pass them over to Rebrandly to track. I did want to add an additional clarification for UTM parameters. As Allison noted, it is different from how UTM parameter works in compared to like GA4 or other link shorteners out there because we use local storage for that click ID. With that said, if you want to see the original UTM parameters, you have the ability to do that. I might share my screen here again, Stephanie. So if you're wondering, okay, what UTM parameters were actually tied to this link, you have the ability to do so. Let me go ahead and share the Rebrandly app again. So let's say you want to go to your top most converting link. You have this see details button. Oh, let me share. Here we go. So let's say you want to take a look at the top most converting links as well as the UTM parameters attached to them. All you have to do is click on see details. It takes you back to that link page and you do have your UTM parameters listed here. Obviously, this link does not have UTM parameters, but you can still do that correlation because we are attaching that all of those subsequent events to a specific click and a specific link. You can always go back to the original source and grab any information from that original source. All right, I'll
great.
stop sharing.
So we have a few questions here that are around a similar theme, which is pricing and revenue attribution. So this says we sell a service that does not have a set price. Can we pull revenue directly from our website? So instead of the professional plan being defined as $79, can we pull pricing data from a field on our website?
100%. You can definitely do that. So the examples that you saw in the demo are like the most simplest form or most simplest version of that call possible. You can add dynamic variables. I mean, based on however your website is set up, you might need a little bit of engineering assistance here. But yes, you can do dynamic price passing for this.
Great. So then another question around this is, do conversions require a revenue value to be attributed to them?
Nope, they do not. So, for example, I had a conversion event that was specifically a page view. There's no revenue tied to a page view. So, you do not need revenue to be attributed to a conversion event.
Great. And then there was one more in the chat, I think, on this same theme.
I think there was
Uh,
one related to dynamic revenue. So I
yeah.
think there were actually a few. So one question was if I have multiple products that are multiple different prices, does it have to be just one price in the conversion event?
Mhm.
So that was question one. And then I saw another one that was if I have dynamic pricing. So if like, a lot of price products are like you can have multiple price points for your products. And then there was also a question about there's no one price for what people purchase. Can I track the direct revenue that people end up paying?
Yeah, I can definitely answer that. So the best example for this is Shopify. So I've used this on Shopify and it works because in Shopify you do have access to all of your pages. In Shopify you can adjust how your website looks, add things to the header, add snippets of code wherever you want. And so the way Shopify works is that all of those values are dynamic. So all you have to do is pass that Shopify, product value or your total cart value and pass that over into the Rebrandly call. All of this can be done dynamically.
Great. Okay, so there's another question in the chat that I think is along similar lines to some of the other things we've been talking about. It says, can I use conversion tracking with a HubSpot form where my conversion is a call to set up an appointment?
Can you repeat that again?
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
just like taking a look at all of the the questions in chat. My bad.
Can I use conversion tracking with a HubSpot form where my conversion is a call to set up an appointment?
You should be able to. I haven't played around with HubSpot forms too much. For the person who asked that question, what we can do is if you go to the office hours next week, we can play around with it to see if it works. So can't give you a straight answer there. It should work depending on how you're incorporating that form into your website, so long as we have that call for, or we have access to the code in that form, we should be able to pass it.
Okay, great. All right, another question. Is the Rebrandly API key for conversion tracking the same over all our websites?
So, okay, there's two ways I can answer this. So I want to get clarification from Pascal here. Uh, do you mean like you want to use the same conversion tracking snippet across multiple like websites that you own? If so, yeah, you can do that. You can use the same snippet across all of your websites if you would like. And it is the same API key in that case. The second way I can answer that question, so this is where I kind of need additional clarification, is the Rebrandly API key. Are you talking about other Rebrandly API keys that you've previously created? Because if that's the case, then the answer is no. Because this is a separate API key from calling this is a separate API key specifically for conversion tracking. I can get into technical details. I'd rather do that in office hours just because I don't want to get into like too much engineering talk for this one. But hopefully that answers your question, Pascal. Okay, so no different conversion snippets, two separate ones for two distinct businesses, not just the conversion tracking API key. Uh, yeah, it's really dependent on your setup. You can use the same snippet and API key. So when I say snippet, it's also the API key included into it. So you can use the same API key for both of those websites, or if you would like to separate it, you have the ability to do that as well.
Great. So these are all of the questions that we have so far. Feel free to drop any lingering ones you have in the chat. I have a question though. Does this work for offline channels, like if you had QR codes or something printed out?
Yeah, if you have a QR code, we can track that as a click event, and we will still track them on the mobile device that they are completing the journey in.
Nice. And another question is, how is attribution handled when a customer clicks multiple links before converting? So if they
Great.
click your
Yeah.
link and then later they go away and they click another link.
Yeah, great question. So we are going to attribute the events and the journey to the last link that was clicked. So let's say they clicked link A um, on Monday, and then they clicked link B on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday they did the conversion event. We're going to attach those conversion events to link B because that is the most recent link that they've clicked.
Thank you. Okay, so if there's no more questions for now, we can
I
start wrapping up.
think
Oh,
I was wondering if we answered the one that Stephanie Kirkham asked
the link one?
to the
I
Amazon
think
ex
that one not. The question is, I've already got it up.
Okay,
Carlissa,
cool.
does this replace any GA4 or Adobe Analytics tools, or is it in addition? And I think in addition to this question, I don't, maybe we can expand a little more on what this is versus isn't, like specifically related to UTM parameters or cookies. But does this replace other tracking systems like GA4 and Adobe Analytics?
That is a good question. I would say it does not. Because this is really just tied to the conversions that are happening inside your website that Rebrandly can see. The way that GA4 as well as other analytics tools work is that you do have more robust capabilities in that like they're specifically analytics tools. You get to do specific like segmentation, you can do rules, you can like track other metrics inside GA4 as well as like BI tools. So I would say it's not a direct replacement. It's more to give you that revenue attribution if you want it and gives you signal for when these conversion events happen and tie that back to a rebrandly link. Whereas GA4 and other BI and analytics tools are more expansive in their feature offerings.
And
Great.
if you can answer, I think maybe or maybe I will, I don't know. UTM parameters. So just to be clear, this is not the same thing as UTM parameters. UTM parameters are attached to the URL, they're a transport mechanism, and you can still use UTM parameters, but conversion tracking is based on local storage. That's what gives us the ability to persistently track people who didn't just do things in one session. So not just click through a link to your website, take the action and convert, but maybe they click, they look around, and then they go away for a while. As long as they come back on the same device and there's, attribution windows, they can come back 20 days later and we can still associate them with that original click.
Yep, exactly. And again, I will reiterate, this is not just like the final iteration of conversion tracking. There are so many more features that we're adding literally in the next 4 weeks. So we are introducing attribution windows. So this will allow you to say, okay, how long do you want an event on a website to be tied to a link click? Like, are you open to willing to wait like 6 months, or do you want that time frame to be shorter to attribute a conversion to a click? So that's something that will hopefully come out in the next 4 weeks or so. There are other features that we have planned out as well, specifically updating the page names so that they're a cleaner visual inside reports. So that will come out in the next 4 weeks. And if, as you all play around with conversion tracking, please send us feedback. That feedback is what allows us to know what we need to build next for conversion tracking, as well as like the additional metrics that you'd potentially like to see, maybe additional filtering or reporting capabilities. We have CSV export on the roadmap eventually. So getting all that feedback from you allows us to prioritize those higher desired initiatives faster.
Great. Well, I think we can start wrapping up. So, Carlos and Allison, thank you so much for walking us through the live demo, and answering all the questions. Very, very helpful.
We actually have
Oh,
one
one
more
late breaking
question.
question.
What is the best way to submit suggestions for future features or integrations? Great question. So I actually have two different answers for this depending on the type of plan that you're on. If you are on the Essentials, Professional, or Growth plan, please submit tickets to support@rebrandly.com. We will keep track of those feature requests. If you, though, are an enterprise customer and you have a customer success manager or an account executive that you communicate with, please direct those requests to them. I know they're a little two different answers, but we can get information from our AEs and our CSMs a lot faster compared to support. Whereas support, it's like we have to filter through a lot of these tickets, and then there's additional steps that we have to take. So if you're able to directly contact an AE or CSM, please do that. Otherwise, reach out to support for this feature request.
Great. Thank you for that question. Okay, so we're going to send out a recording of this webinar to everyone who registered. So if you want to revisit any of the setup steps, you'll have access to that. We'll also send out our written documentation on how to set everything up. But if you get into it and you have more questions once you get started, we are holding open office hours next Thursday, same time as this week. So you can drop in there and ask your questions directly to Carlissa and walk through things with her. So you can scan the QR code on the screen for details, but we'll also send out that info in the follow-up email. Also, if you get started and you're having a good experience and you'd like to give us a quote or possibly be featured in a case study, we would really love that. So if you're interested in that, You can send an email to Allison. Her email is just allison@rebrandly.com, Allison with one L at rebrandly.com. So definitely would be interested in talking to you about that. So thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.